Okay, and what's your name?
Anita.
Anita. Thank you, Anita, for telling us the story of this amazing tower.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I wish we were officially open though.
Well, I'm thankful that you let us in anyway. Thank you.
Come on, we'll go on. So, okay, the tower was built in 1941, and it was built for the purpose of observing bombing practice on the bay. And so in Debert, which is probably 40 kilometers from here, there was a Commonwealth training station. So there were people from all over the British Commonwealth training there. And they were learning how to fly, and they were learning how to bomb. And so at the same time. And so they were flying down the bay. They were bombing a big rock that's out in the middle of the bay, which you'll see when we get up to the top of the tower. And anyway, so that was the purpose of this. So in the top of the tower were these military from Debert, and they were Air Force, and they were watching all this practice going on, and they would radio back to Debert whether there was a strike or not on the tower. And so they would know who that was in that plane and so on that was flying by. There were also 2 other towers that were built up the shoreline, and they also were building rafts in Debert, and they float the rafts down on the ebb tide, and so they would bomb the rafts too. So when this is all over said and done, there were all kinds of bombs left in the mud flats and all over the place, because remember, our tides go out and they go out of sight when they go out here in Economy, right. and up the shore. So it was very interesting. Everybody seemed to have a bomb or what was left of a bomb in their backyard. Oh yeah, we had them all over the place. So
wow.
So anyway, so then I'll just go on with the story and tell you that at the end of the war, this land was where the tower sat, which is just down the road a little piece, which I can show you when we're up on top. Then this land was taken from the landowner by the government, and the tower was built, whether they wanted it or not, didn't matter, and it was built, and after it was all said and done, the war was over, then they were offered the tower back for $50.
Wow.
Well, $50 at wartime was a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And these people were farmers. That's who they were. And so they weren't going to take it. Then they just say, oh, well, what the heck, let's just do it. And so they took the tower. The tower became a cottage, a summer cottage. So instead of being something, a cottage that goes out this way, this one goes up this way. And so they had a clear view of everywhere, up and down the shore.
Wow.
Just amazing. And I lived right beside the tower as I grew up too. So anyway, so that's kind of the story of it. And then after these folks, they had their family come and use it. They were from Masstown near Truro. And they would come down and use it in the summertime and so on. And I lived next door, so I was around the tower all the time, in and out and on top, and on the beach. And anyway, the old lady who was the original owner is right here in this picture. And her name is Elma McClellan. And she went back to the tower after all this family has grown up, they've gone away, they've got families of their own in Ontario or wherever. Then she came back to the tower to be there in the summertime, to her tower. And she had it all fixed up like it is in the second picture. If you can take a look at that. It's really interesting. That's the same corner you're in right now.
Oh, wow.
So, anyway, so that's the story of the tower. So we can go up to the second floor and then on up. Nothing much has been done in here, but this summer I have somebody who's taken a great interest in it, and they're going to do some displays for the walls and so on. So then after time went by and there's nobody coming to the tower anymore, the tide is coming onto the tower. the tower finally tips over the side of the bank, and it sits at a probably, I don't know what degree angle it would be, but anyway, and it sat there for 3 years with the tide lapping at the bottom of it on high tides and that. So as a community, we thought this building should be saved. It's a historic site. It should be saved. So we got permission from the family who still owned the piece of land there, and they said, sure, go ahead, you can have it, but I want you to dedicate it to the memory of Walter McClellan, who was our family as well. And this was Walter's, the tribute that was made to Walter. So he was a navigator in the Second World War, and he flew in the big Lancaster. And anyway, he got his Distinguished Flying Cross. Down at the bottom, you'll see all the medals. He got his Distinguished Flying Cross from getting the plane back over German territory to England again by following the stars, because there was a blitz on. There were no lights in the planes, no lights anywhere. But he followed the stars and got them back safely to home port.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a little something else about it. Oh, we're on the second floor. All I can tell you about the second floor is that as I grew up here, then there was a bed there and a bed here, and there was a little night table in between and a chair sitting there. and they were the old army type beds, the metal tube type thing. And anyway, so this is what it was. This is a map that was given to us, and it signifies everything that was going on at the time of the Second World War. So even where the ships were and everything, the names of the ships, and when you look at the countries and how the countries have now changed, it's just amazing. It's amazing how they've changed. Not the same at all. So here we are, we're up at the top, and this is where those RAF officers would be. And they'd be watching what was going on, and they'd be up on the top as well. So looking out here in the bay, that's the Brick Hills, that rock. And that's what they bombed when they were flying down.
Wow.
Yeah. And so they also came across from an airport that used to be on the other side of the bay called Stanley. And they used to do it from there too. So my mother and I were at the exhibition in Truro, the provincial exhibition, and we saw this huge map. It was like a wooden, lovely looking thing. And anyway, and all these Air Force people standing around. This is at the time of the Cold War, I guess. And anyway, we went to talk to them, and they told us what they were doing was setting up a ground observer corps. And at wartime, there were ground observers. There were people who were on the ground spying planes and so on and reporting to the Air Force and that. So my mother headed up a little group here, and we used our tower, and this tower, and this is what we did. This is, see this little plastic thing? We took a hold of that, we held it up like this when we saw a plane coming, and when you held that up, if the plane fit in either one of those circles, it tells you how high that plane is up. Also, you'd learn whether it was a biplane, whether it was a single engine plane, whatever, and also what direction it was going and the time and so on. But what we had to do that for was that we would then go over here to the telephone, and this was the telephone. So we would push the button here on the back and ring now. When you did that, you got what was called Central. She had a big switchboard in Bass River, and she would see our call come in. And these were party lines, you have to remember.
Right.
And so she would see our call come in, and she would knock everybody else off the line. We would say, Mike Abel 02 Red. That was our code. And she'd put us right straight through to Central and Truro. at that station. It was called the, oh dear, filter center they called it. And they had a great big table there with a map, and they were charting all these planes that we were doing here, and somebody else was doing someplace else in Nova Scotia. Somebody was doing it in New Brunswick and all that sort of thing, you know. So it was just watching planes and where they are and what they might be and so on.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So it was fun, and you felt like you were doing something,
Right.
something worthwhile.
Contributing.
Contributing.
Yeah.
We were contributing to the effort. So
we're going to see if we can get the top open to go up top.
Yeah.
If not, we won't be able to do that today. They're not officially open yet.
no, not yet.
Yep. Don't hurt yourself trying or anything.
I'll try not to.
Oh, she did it. Okay, we're going to go up to the tower part.
Pretty good for 82.
Wow. What an amazing view. Could you imagine living in this thing? That would have been so awesome to have lived in this thing.
Oh gosh, yes.
Like a train, you'll hear me coming from 100 miles away. I don't ever remember running as fast as when I'm after you to stay. When I tell you that I promise, that's exactly what I